How far does it go? How deep is it? How deep is it right here? And so forth. So most people never know the extent of the swimming hole that they're swimming in. The only thing you really hear is yourself breathing. Otherwise, there's no sound.
Nature has a strange way of luring us. Calm waters, glowing cave mouths, endless blue, everything looks peaceful on the surface. But some of the most beautiful places on Earth are also the most unforgiving. We're drawn to mystery, the thrill of the unknown, the idea that we can handle it, whatever's down there, until we can't. What happens when that mystery leads somewhere you can't return from? Jacob's Well, the Devil's System in Florida, and Eagle's Nest Sinkhole, all stunning, all deadly. These aren't just diving spots, they're places where excitement meets real risk. Divers have found everything in the depths of these places. Discarded gas cylinders, abandoned gear, even the bodies of long-lost divers. And what they've seen will haunt you. To some, they're wonders of the world. To others, they're where everything went wrong. The hidden beauty of Earth's underwater caves. There are places in this world that seem almost too perfect to be real. Pools of crystal clear water, glowing blue under sunlight, quietly inviting anyone who stumbles upon them. But beneath the surface, they hide vast, submerged cave systems, some of the most mysterious and dangerous environments on Earth. These aren't ordinary caves, these are underwater cave sites, dark, silent passageways carved by water, pressure, and time, stretching deep into the earth like veins through a living body. Underwater cave systems form primarily in soft, soluble rock like limestone. Rainwater absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and soil, creating a weak carbonic acid. Over thousands or even millions of years, this acidic water seeps into cracks, slowly dissolving the rock and creating hollow chambers. As these voids expand and collapse, networks of tunnels and shafts emerge. Some remain dry, others flood as water levels rise, forming completely submerged cave systems. There are different types too. Vertical sinkholes, horizontal spring tunnels, collapsed domes, and they're found all over the world. From Mexico's Cenote Angelita to Thailand's Tam Luang and the Bahamas' Blue Holes, each system tells a story written in stone and water. But among all of them, three stand out, not just for their beauty, but for the thrill they offer to divers and adventurers. These are Jacob's Well in Texas, the Devil's System in Florida, and the infamous Eagle's Nest Sinkhole, also in Florida. Each formed by the same slow forces of geology, yet each completely unique in character. Jacob's Well sits in the Texas Hill Country near Wimberley. It's a perfectly round spring that looks like a glassy eye in the rock, opening straight down. Fed by the Edwards Aquifer, it pushes water up from deep underground through a series of vertical chambers. The visible shaft reaches about 30 feet, but the full system continues far deeper, over 140 feet, through tight restrictions, false floors, and steep drop-offs. It's a rare artesian spring, still active and flowing year-round, and its sheer clarity draws swimmers, photographers, and divers from around the world. In contrast, Florida's Devil's System is sprawling and horizontal. Located near the Santa Fe River, it includes entrances like the Devil's Eye, Devil's Ear, and Devil's Spring. These portals connect to one of the longest underwater cave systems in the U.S., with tunnels stretching for miles beneath the surface. The terrain here is karst, porous limestone eaten away by water, creating winding, high-ceilinged corridors and sudden narrow squeezes. The water is startlingly clear, visibility reaching over 100 feet on a good day, creating an illusion of safety and simplicity. And then there's Eagle's Nest, often called the Mount Everest of cave diving. It lies hidden in a wooded part of Florida's Chassahowitzka Wildlife Management Area. From above, it appears as nothing more than a shallow, murky pond. But below, it opens into a vertical shaft that drops nearly 300 feet, connecting to an immense multi-level cave system. It is dark, deep, and complex with silty floors, low visibility, and branching tunnels that can disorient even elite divers. It's both awe-inspiring and intimidating, perhaps the purest expression of the mystery of underwater caves. These sites are breathtaking, Visually stunning, geologically fascinating, but that beauty comes at a cost. Because what makes them mesmerizing is also what makes them deadly. The silence, the clarity, the sense of weightless freedom, it's all part of the illusion. And for many who entered these places chasing thrill or wonder, that illusion became the last thing they ever saw. Jacob's Well, the gateway to the underworld. At first, Jacob's Well looks harmless, peaceful even, a round, glassy pool carved into pale limestone surrounded by reeds and warm Texas air. Families swim in the shallows, children laugh. On a hot summer day, it feels like any other natural spring. But beneath that calm surface lies a vertical shaft that drops over 140 feet, spiraling into darkness. It's not just a hole, it's a gateway into something older, deeper, and far less forgiving, and people call it the Well of Death. Jacob's Well is part of the Edwards Aquifer system, one of the largest underground water sources in the southern United States. Over thousands of years, pressure from the aquifer and erosion of soft limestone created a vertical cave system with chambers, drop-offs, and tight restrictions. Unlike many caves, which sprawl horizontally, Jacob's Well plunges straight down. Divers describe the descent as dropping into a throat of stone, beautiful, weightless, but narrowing the deeper you go. For cave divers, it's a dream, a challenge, a place whispered about in dive communities for its clarity, its depth, and its mystery. But for some, that dream becomes a nightmare. Since records began, at least 9 divers have died inside the depths of Jacob's Well. Not because they were careless, but because the well doesn't play fair. It shifts. All it takes is a moment, a bad turn, a kicked-up silt cloud, a wrong passage that looks just like the right one. One of the most well-known tragedies occurred in 2001 when Richard Patton entered the well for what he believed would be a controlled, mapped dive. In 2001, Richard Patton, a certified diver with experience in cave systems, entered Jacob's Well for what should have been a routine exploration. He'd been there before. He knew the descent, the twists, the gear. He wasn't reckless. He planned his dive, brought the right equipment, and began his descent in clear, calm water. Witnesses said he appeared confident as he moved through the first shaft and into the second chamber. Then, nothing. When he failed to surface, emergency teams were called. What followed was one of the most grueling recovery efforts ever attempted at the site. Divers found Patton wedged in a narrow passage far deeper than expected. His gear was intact. His air hadn't run out. But he'd made one critical mistake. He entered a tunnel that seemed passable but led to a dead end, then turned too tight to reverse course. In trying to turn back, he stirred up the fine sediment on the floor. Within seconds, the space filled with blinding silt. He couldn't see, couldn't navigate, couldn't escape. To recover his body, divers had to disassemble his equipment underwater and guide it back through the same tight passage that had trapped him. Every inch of the retrieval was a reminder: Jacob's Well doesn't forgive. Locals have long said the well claims a soul every few years. It's not folklore. It's fact. Despite warning signs, permits, and stricter regulations, people still go in. The beauty is that convincing, the temptation that strong. Divers, even experienced ones, believe they'll be the exception, that with skill and caution, they'll see what others couldn't. Reach the unreachable, come back with a story. But the well doesn't care. It doesn't react. It doesn't warn. It simply waits. It waits in silence. In still water that hides tight turns and false paths, in places where a heartbeat is the only sound and the light disappears faster than you think. And that's the truth at the heart of Jacob's Well. It may be beautiful, it may be clear, but it's also indifferent. It has no interest in how good you are or how prepared you think you are. Over the years, Jacob's Well has been called the gateway to the underworld, a name earned from its eerie, perfect shape, crystal clear depth, and the many lives it has claimed. Beauty above, but darkness and danger waiting just below. You either come back or you become part of the silence below. But Jacob's Well isn't the only beautiful lie. The neck stretches sideways, longer, darker, and far more deceptive than anything that came before. Devil's System, an underwater labyrinth. If Jacob's Well is a trapdoor, the Devil's System is a maze built by madness. Hidden beneath the surface near High Springs, Florida, lies a tangled web of submerged tunnels known collectively as the Devil's System. On the surface, it's beautiful. Clear water flows gently from the Santa Fe River, surrounded by cypress trees and bright sun. The springs, Devil's Eye, Devil's Ear, and Devil's Spring, look peaceful, almost welcoming. But that surface is a lie. Beneath it lies one of the most complex underwater cave systems in North America. Formed by the erosion of Florida's porous limestone over thousands of years, the Devil's System stretches out in every direction. High-ceilinged chambers, tight crawl spaces, and narrow corridors where visibility can vanish in seconds. The terrain shifts unexpectedly, and one wrong turn can trap you with no chance of escape. To many divers, that's the draw, the beauty, the test. But to others, it's a quiet predator, inviting, patient, and full of false promises. Over the years, the Devil's System has claimed numerous lives. What makes it so lethal isn't just the depth or length, it's how deceptive it is. Wide entrances lull divers into confidence. Clear water gives the illusion of safety. But a few hundred feet in, those same tunnels tighten into choking corridors. One wrong turn and you're not in a cave, you're in a coffin. And none of the stories is more haunting than the disappearance of Ben McDaniel, a 20-year-old cave diver who entered the system in August 2010 and was never seen again. Ben was ambitious, obsessed with diving, but he wasn't certified for cave diving. He trained constantly, studied maps, and on that day, he descended into the system through the Devil's Eye Spring. Witnesses saw him go down, gear checked, confident. And that was the last time anyone saw him. He never came back. Recovery divers were called in immediately and they combed the tunnels for days. His tanks were recovered just past a posted warning sign. Stop, prevent your death, go no farther. Past that point, the cave system turns brutal, tight, twisted, and unstable. Ben was never found. Theories emerged quickly. Some speculated Ben staged his own death to escape personal troubles. Others claimed he made it deeper than anyone thought was possible and got trapped. But the most likely explanation is the simplest and the most horrifying. He likely got lost, ran out of air, and now rests somewhere in the uncharted dark. Cave divers from across the country came to search. Some risked their lives trying, others stopped, haunted by the system's refusal to give him back. And that's the Devil's System in its truest form, not just a cave, but a presence. A place that watches you take one wrong turn and waits. Maps don't help here. Every tunnel looks like the last. Every open space leads to a smaller one. The system folds in on itself like a cruel puzzle with no solution. And then there's a place so deep, so dark, they named it after a predator. Eagle's Nest, a death trap carved in stone. Eagle's Nest sinkhole doesn't look threatening. Hidden inside Florida's Chassahowitzka Wildlife Management Area, it resembles an ordinary shallow pond, still quiet, undisturbed. But beneath that mirror-like surface is a vertical drop into one of the most dangerous underwater cave systems in the world. It plunges nearly 300 feet before branching out into massive multi-level chambers, passageways, overhangs, and corridors that twist unpredictably in the dark. Divers call it the Mount Everest of cave diving, and not just for its difficulty, but for its fatal reputation. It demands everything from a diver: physical stamina, perfect buoyancy control, multiple redundant systems, precise navigation, and deep mental focus. It's the kind of dive that even professionals second guess, the kind where one slip, one misjudgment could cost your life. The story of Darren and Dylan Spivey, a father and son from Florida, is among the most devastating reminders of what can happen here. On Christmas Day 2013, they entered Eagle's Nest together. Darren was a certified diver with some cave diving experience. Dylan, just 15, had none. Their dive was unplanned, casual, and reckless. No support divers, no proper decompression strategy, no formal training for a cave system this extreme. Neither of them made it out. Their bodies were recovered deep inside the system. Dylan first, just past the main drop-off, and Darren later, farther in as if he had gone searching for his son. Both ran out of air in places where no light reached, where the walls press in and time runs out fast. Their deaths shook the diving world. They weren't the first to die in Eagle's Nest, and they wouldn't be the last. But they were a reminder. This place doesn't offer margin for error. It punishes arrogance. It doesn't forgive inexperience. At the entrance now, a metal plaque waits. Stop, prevent your death, go no farther. It's not there for decoration. It's there because too many thought they were ready and weren't. Eagle's Nest is a marvel, a cathedral of stone and water hidden beneath the earth. But it is not a playground. It demands humility, discipline, and respect, because the deeper you go in search of thrill, the more you're gambling with your life. And some debts are never paid in air alone. There's something deeply human about chasing the edge. We crave the rush, the mystery, the sense of doing what few dare to attempt. Underwater cave diving, like skydiving, wingsuit flying, or base jumping, offers that rush, moments that feel like freedom itself. But there's a line between thrill and danger, and nature doesn't mark it for us. Training helps. Experience helps. But there are places that remain utterly indifferent to both. Jacob's Well, the Devil's System, Eagle's Nest, they are stunning, otherworldly, almost sacred in their beauty. But they are also reminders that nature doesn't care how careful we are. It doesn't reward courage. It doesn't protect ambition. Skydivers fall through sunsets. Wingsuit pilots carve through mountain valleys. But the ground doesn't care how graceful the flight was. What these places offer is real adventure and real risk. So what do you think? Would you ever dive into a place like Jacob's Well or Eagle's Nest? Does the thrill outweigh the risk? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into danger, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more real stories from the edge coming soon. Until then, stay curious. Thanks for watching.